Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody here on the webcast. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here for our latest webinar, Reduce Time to Market and Gain Insights for the Digital Solutions Economy with SAP Automated Revenue Management. And I am excited to be joined here by my friend, colleague, and expert on revenue accounting, Pete Graham. Pete, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Discussion. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully everybody's keeping
quarter,
cool.
Right? I know.
End of the quarter.
Yes.
So thanks for everybody to join us. End of the quarter, both from a sales perspective, end of the quarter, end of the half year. For those of you in reporting, so everybody in here Pete must be very serious. So that we'll be serious and get focused. So with that in mind, I just want to remind everybody, this webinar is being recorded. So you can download it from the website and get onto YouTube and download it from any of those spots. You can ask questions throughout the session. There's a questions panel, so feel free to ask those questions. We will try to answer them during the broadcast. If not, we will get to them shortly afterwards. And then again, as I said, you can download those previous webinars from our website here. So check us out, contact us on our website, learn more about revenue recognition and all of the other areas that we're working on, S4HANA and other advisory services. Join us on Facebook or LinkedIn for some conversations. We have a number of great groups that you can join, or you can check out different content here on Apple iTunes for our podcasts. And I know Pete has been a frequent visitor on our podcast, so check that out. Go to YouTube for these videos and probably somewhere around 50 to 60 other videos about subjects around revenue accounting and other areas, as well as our Insight to Actions podcasts available on iHeartRadio. Today, I am privileged to have Pete here, and we're going to talk about a subject that's near and dear to our hearts, which is about the digital solutions economy and this concept that we have where companies are moving and where the world is moving. And then Pete's going to talk a bit about the new automated revenue management and what's the big difference. And Pete, I saw some great stuff in there about some customer examples, so I'm really excited to see that. And then we'll explore some customer examples in this framework of the digital solutions economy. So what exactly is this idea of the digital solutions economy? And together with SAP Bramasol, we all believe that this is the next evolution of the subscription economy. I think we all know about the subscription economy. It's been around for a long time. It's where you have a recurring or regular payment in return for access to a good or a service. Certainly your cell phone is a great example of that, telecommunications, your cable bill, any of that. In the case of privileges, you should think about that in terms of Apple Music is an interesting idea where you have access to some curated content, but you also have your gym is a standard subscription model, but it's so much more than that. We see more and more companies like SAP and others offering something as a service. The great thing that SAP is offering now is business transformation as a service with the RISE initiatives that they're doing, and I encourage all of you to check that out. But RISE is business transformation as a service, so you can have just about anything as a service. It's also about entitlements. For those of you who, like myself, are gamers, entitlements are about buying an example would be buying a game and being entitled to Game of the Year content, whether it's downloadable content, different screens. Those of you who love Angry Birds, you can buy coins, but entitlements goes so much further than that around many different software models as well as hardware models. We have these dynamic pricing models. Dynamic pricing models have actually been in place for a long time around things like energy usage, but you also have dynamic pricing models like Uber, Hotels.com, and many of those others, and lots more companies are getting into those. You have outcome-based models. The easiest one to think of an outcome-based model is paying for your insurance, for example, is a new one where you would pay for the miles you drove using the little plug-in in your car or providing information to your insurance provider. We have usage and consumption-based models. Usage being you pay up front and then use that. or consumption models, meaning a pay-as-you-go model, and of course, revenue sharing models. And some interesting examples of those are occurring more and more in the transportation industry. We're also seeing those in warehouse models where you might have a revenue sharing model against the various entities that might comprise that warehouse or managing distribution centers. So, lots more there. And this is just a small list of the kinds of companies that are involved. And, I think it's easy for us to understand companies like US Cellular, HP, but think more about revolutions here in the area of pet food and pet supplies, where you can create a something as you use model for that, or a consumption-based model where you pay as you go. A company we worked recently with, Cephia, does consumption-based models for their products, and of course you have a beautiful Peloton bike here where they do privilege, so you also can use that. So lots of different models here. And we believe that this is really, we talked about subscription, but this is the next evolution of that model. Why are companies moving in this direction? Why does it matter to them? Well, for one, it's higher growth, higher revenue. We see higher growth rates for companies in this space, higher margins, and more predictable margins, and it gives them new models and new opportunities. We're seeing them be able to lower costs. Again, that goes with the higher revenue, lower costs increases those margins. They can reduce the management of complex customer relationships. They become more efficient, and we'll talk about that. And you'll see how a tool like Automated Revenue Management, or RevRec, can help you be more efficient in managing those. And believe it or not, it will lower your DSO, your Days Sales Outstanding. How does it do that? Well, because you have a predictable income that comes over time, and because it's on a credit card or an automated payment, you no longer have some of those issues about issuing challenges about issuing an invoice, waiting for the invoice to be received, and getting it back late. You have a predictable model. And again, this is all part of, goes into revenue accounting as well. Finally, it's where the world is going. Your customers are demanding for it. 70% of executives recently polled by one of the big four said they believe that subscription models are the future. And many of these businesses are moving in that direction. And Pete and I are seeing a lot of customers we're talking to moving in that direction. This is a chance to be a leader, not a follower. Get out in front of it. It's disrupting technology. It's a disrupting environment, and you want to be there. And finally, Wall Street is putting higher valuations on companies with recurring revenue models. So what do we mean by this, and what does it mean to you as a customer of SAP and Bramasol? Well, you want to be able to engage around this circle that we've created that includes all these different aspects, including customer engagement. How do you enable your customers to engage with you the way they want, how they want, and when they want? How are you enabling automated solution order creation and management? What is your process for delivery and fulfillment in an environment where the customer picks and manages their bundles? And how are you delivering that, whether it's through physical delivery or it's through entitlements management or digital supply chain? Billing and invoicing. Customers don't want to receive, these customers who engage with you, they don't want 10 bills, they don't want 10 invoices. How are you able to use tools like SAP BRIM to bring all of that together and give them one bill, one invoice with all of the information? On payments and collections, we talked about, and we've seen many different ways that customers want to engage or have different flexible payment options. And how does your infrastructure allow you to do that while complying all with the revenue recognition standards or the leasing standards that exist out there? How are you managing compliance? And finally, you as an organization want software the way you want it. Whether you want cloud or no cloud, do you want to manage services through programs like SAP Rise, or do you want to use other hyperscalers and other organizations to help you with that? You want flexible customer UI, UX. And of course, we always talk about this idea of analysis for insight to action. So today, we're privileged to have Pete here and focus in on this revenue recognition aspect of it. But before we do that, Pete, I know you talk with a lot of customers does this, and we've talked about this model resonates for you, and what are you seeing customers in this model moving to and thinking about?
Well, I think it's the biggest thing we're seeing is just the reaction to different business models or trying to keep up with maybe the changing consumer tastes. Certainly, the pandemic had a huge impact on this, and we're seeing just a lot of customers, just introducing subscription business models and the impact that that has. Certainly, there were SaaS business models already, but that just seems to have gotten accelerated in the last year. And we're seeing this across all really the businesses that I work with, and all the industries or many of the industries are seeing this. And of course, that impacts revenue recognition because it could potentially make it much more complicated. And so a company that maybe had traditional lines of business and revenue recognition already now, all of a sudden needs to now add a new line that's subscription based, right? And has impact on RevRec in terms of how they want to manage that.
Absolutely. So speaking of RevRec, why don't we dive right in? So I'm going to turn it over to you, Pete, for an overview of this new approach, I guess, or product view called SAP Automated
Yeah,
Revenue Management.
thanks, Sean. Yeah, it's really a point of view that in terms of automating your revenue management, it's really more holistic and broader, and goes across the different platforms. And you can actually, as we see, you can go from compliance to transformation also with these tools. And if you go to the next slide, I mean, really what we've seen over the last, um, I guess it's now almost 10 years, is that you have a huge um, diversity, right, of requirements, revenue recognition requirements across the spectrum of industries, right? We see some very low volume, simple accounting, low complexity in certain industries, all the way up to certainly in telco and high tech, seem to be the most high volume and high complexity businesses we see, as well as accounting, but that's not always the case. We can see complexity in other places as well. And if you, I think, hit the next driver on the slide, this just gives folks attending some of the scenarios we see, right? Subscription billing are some of the new ones that we see, or we see a lot of customers adding these new billing plans or subscriptions to their business models. But we also have the typical ones that you would see: multiple element arrangements in mobile phones. We have maintenance renewals that most businesses have, deferred revenues, commissions, accounting, a lot of project-based services out there still. That's not going away,
Yeah.
as well as project-based sales or sell from stock. So, I mean, this is the picture that we see. It's super complex, it's diverse. We see tremendous, differences even from companies in the same industries. So that's the point of view we have. And what SAP has been working on for many years is actually trying to make sure we're really covering this space. And so we've decided really to kind of broaden our point of view and make that, more public, more official, in the sense of how we tackle all of these challenges for customers.
Yeah, and what I love, and you and I talked about this slide, is it actually it's kind of more of a, not just a spectrum, it's kind of a three-dimensional or two-dimensional spectrum in some, or three-dimensional spectrum, right? It's more of a, you can have low volume, high complexity, you can have low complexity, high volume, or any combination thereof. And the flexibility that RAR/ARM provides you is so important, because these companies, as you're seeing, are growing in those directions. They might start out on the left where they have a simple subscription service, but over time, that subscription, you and I have been talking with, some of the gaming companies or media companies where the volume is low and it's simple. I bought a thing in the beginning, and now all of a sudden it's developing into highly complex, multi-nested entitlements, and then the volume goes up. So it's that scalability that's so important, right?
Yes. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
next slide.
Yeah, so I mean, our point of view is that there's several solutions from SAP that help address automated revenue management, and we have different deployment options. Um, and really, the benefits, and this is outlined in the new solution brief slash white paper. Um,
Hmm.
of course, one of our fundamental brand promises doesn't change. We want to automate and simplify revenue accounting. That's one of the core tasks, right, of within the accounting team and revenue recognition. But we're also seeing that there are broader benefits, right, in terms of enabling the intelligent enterprise, right, and providing an agile and flexible framework, right? All these changes that we just talked about, these are all hitting these companies in real time, and they're literally having to call, if you're, a sports fan in football, you're calling the audible, right? You're getting up to the line of
Right.
scrimmage, and all of a sudden you see, you know, the market's changing, and you got to adjust. And that's literally what these customers are doing. And so being able to provide that in the S/4HANA Intelligence Enterprise and our cloud solutions is actually a big help, right, to these customers. Certainly, there is some good bread and butter benefits in the sense that, we still have customers that come to us and say, we have challenges closing our books every month or every quarter,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And sometimes the revenue accounting pieces are related to automated revenue management, or are the processes that need to be optimized or transformed, right? Um, Certainly on the billing side and subscriptions integration with Brim, we talked a little bit about that, but this digital solutions economy, as we've discussed, as you went through very nicely, it's here. It's getting more, I would say, momentum, right? And we're seeing it,
Yeah.
you know, uh, every day. Customers are coming to us saying, "Look, we're rolling out these new businesses. Can you help us?" Um, that also means not only do you need the flexibility and the agility to kind of make those adjustments on the fly, but then you also need to streamline them, right? Or maybe and we've seen this, and we'll talk about this, I think, little bit later in terms of you might start off just, you know, planning to meet the compliance requirements, but over time you want to optimize them and maybe even transform them depending on what
Right.
strategic initiatives are going on at your company. Maybe there's a merger going on, or maybe there is some growth. Um, Certainly, as you take a step back, we want to make sure we're looking at the full picture of the processes. So, the tools are incorporating, the sales and logistics information and even third-party applications. Um, and certainly looking at the analytics, right? That's a huge benefit of S4 is those insights into all of this, right? And we're
Absolutely.
getting more and more requests. I mean, we had the user group meeting last week, and Jan
Hmm.
Willem from Mentor, who you know well, you've worked with, right? I mean, he um, was saying how they're running their posting in RAR every 2 hours, right? I think is what he said, right? And we're just
Yep.
seeing more and more in that, right? Getting more and more compressed to really, we think this will be pretty much real time, where customers in the future are going to want this literally on a document by document basis, right? And so that's where you get to the transformation, right? So you started with what you thought was compliance, but now all of a sudden, every time you ship a widget, you potentially could understand the full impact, right, on your financials. So that's kind of the goal that I think a lot of financial professionals um, would like to see, and that's also one of the things that we have in our vision of trying to get our tools to that point, right, where you actually are seeing your financials in real time.
Exactly. And it's funny, interesting you mentioned that. I saw an article this morning from one of the big consulting companies. I can't remember whether it's Bain or McKinsey that said that exactly. The controllers themselves are, we talk about the idea of the continuous close, but it's more of the continuous visibility into all of these aspects of their business, whether it's the revenue accounting side of it or profitability. And it's, we hear about companies looking to revolutionize their industries by looking at profitability and revenue on an individual piecemeal basis, as you said. Toyota, I remember recently talking about profitability at the VIN, vehicle identification number perspective, right? Which requires you to have a revenue accounting system that can really handle millions of transactions. So absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. So partnering for success.
Yeah, I mean the point here, and this is I think a slide that really sums it up nicely, is that um, SAP has been working a long time on these automated revenue management solutions and tools, but they don't get applied in a vacuum, right? They need partners that are knowledgeable, have experience, and can really work with the customers hand in hand. Um, and this is what Bramasol does, right? So Bramasol knows our solutions, and they can work with the best practices. And really, we've seen that um, getting a good list of requirements and doing the right fit gap analysis, doing even pilots, really that's very important before you're doing an implementation. But
Mhm.
really, this space, as you know, John, is diverse and can be very complex. But we all seen that, if you follow the best practices, getting good requirements nailed down, and sometimes that requires going even down to the T account level, so it's clear what the
Yep.
posting requirements are at the accounting level. And then the knowledgeable service teams can come in and do the fit gap against the solution sets, right? And then they can make the recommendation of, what are the best solutions and deployment options that are gonna make the customer successful, right? And so that's why we
Mhm.
put the slide in here, is that, right, it's really a joint partnership, right, between ourselves and you and the customer to make sure,
Exactly.
everyone's successful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the little the hat, the get enablement, the graduation, the MITRE board, I guess
Yeah.
it is, right? Which it was that time of year a little while ago too for
Yeah.
all the graduates. But it's also about get enabled, but get educated about revenue
Yeah.
accounting, get educated about the solutions that are out there, because there's a lot of solutions that have a lot of claims of what they do, and you want to be educated in what really works for you. Um, and we believe RAR is clearly and automated revenue management is the best solution for anybody on SAP for sure. So,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right.
And so I think the key thing is just, nail down your requirements, do the fit gaps, follow the best practices, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
um, moving on to the latest solution brief or white paper, really, I mean, um, all of these kind of ideas and this point of view has been building over the last couple of years, and we decided this year was the time to actually bring that to our customers. And so we launched this white paper in early Q1, actually, sorry, at the end of Q1 into Q2, and really it goes through um, at a very high level, right? It talks about the digital solutions economy that we talked about, um, the pressing, compliance and operational challenge that is, the revenue recognition, right, challenge, or really the automated revenue
Mhm.
management challenge for most companies, and really the benefits of going down that path with the SAP solutions, right? Um,
Yep.
and it's summarized here, but you can download the white paper. We can send you the link. But basically, it is on the Intelligent Enterprise with S4. We talked about how it can help enable the solutions economy and make the customers more, with the flexibility and agility, be able to keep up with these changes that they're making on the fly, and really are almost forced to based on customer demand and market,
Yep.
um, situations. Um, and also make sure we have kind of that holistic approach, right? Not only um, looking at the sales and logistics and even third-party applications in terms of inputs, whether it's, what, whether it's revenue documents or, you know, potentially order to cash documents, but then also making sure you're looking at the blocking and tackling skills like closing the books a little faster and making sure you've got a good insights into all that, right? So this is a good high level perspective, and we'll, highlight some of the themes that we discussed today here on the
Yeah.
webinar.
Yeah. And particularly around this optimized closing and reporting, where it's pretty easy to see from the perspective of, oh, I've got one place to go for all of my revenue accounting information, but the reports and the tools that have been built and the data that's available helps you produce your FASB reports for your 10Ks, 10Qs that much more quickly. And I know, SAP has done a tremendous amount of work in the embedded analytics and the embedded tools, and continuing to evolve that, as well as, we're layering on top of that a basic package of reports and analytics that you can check out in some of our other webinars and some of the other things on our website that you can check out. So. So Pete, this is the part that I always love customer stories, and I saw this in your deck, and I was excited to hear you talk a little bit more about some of this customer success, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, customer success. So maybe you can share. I guess you're going to share a couple of customer stories here.
Okay, sure.
But first, I guess my favorite thing, as we watch Superman fly in here from the left, is our comply, optimize, transform. You and I have been on this COT, or comply, optimize,
Yep.
transform, since, gosh, Pete, since the initial implementation, if you will, of the rules back in 2018 or so, when
Yeah, so
people
this
first
has
started
been
had to comply. Mhm.
right. Yeah, this is 3 or 4 years ago we started talking about this. And really it came out of some customer workshops we had, and this was
Yep.
really well received. So we adapted it for the general slides that we use.
So
And really
yeah,
it's maturity in the journey, right? I mean, a lot of
it is.
customers back then were coming to us just with, hey, how do we comply? How do we achieve compliance? And really our tools have always helped customers enable their compliance, but they can do more too, right? They can help you with the basics, but if you have the right mindset and you come in with the right perspective, you may also be able to start to optimize or redesign certain processes. And
Exactly.
certainly, if you're on kind of the batch oriented ERP and jump over to S/4HANA, which has more real-time capabilities, then you might be actually on the transformation side of the spectrum where um, there's a lot more automation and a lot more insights from the analytical side. And of course, none of this is possible with partners along the way, right? And so that's why, John, your team's role is so important, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and we've seen, we've worked with you and we've worked with companies, for many years now, seeing them start with this idea of, oh my God, we've got to scramble and get ready for ASC 606. But it's even focused on just ensuring that you have um, this transactional excellence, or transactional view, that says my transactions are accurate, timely, and they comply with the regulations. And you think about that, and then how do I go beyond it? And we use tools such as RAR and automated revenue management to provide some insights into the entire process, and look at your order to cash process and help you realize, where are there ways to tweak and get more information, whether it's linking to things like project systems or COPA or other SAP tools, or incorporating new tools from the outside that you want to use. But the transformation journey, we're working with several customers who are transforming their enterprise and using ARM and RAR to accelerate their go-to-market, to help them with this tool really get insights into the impact of changing offers in the marketplace from a subscription perspective, and going from requiring months to develop a brand new offer into the marketplace to now being able to do it in a matter of weeks. And so it's that transforming your business from reacting to proacting, and using these tools to help you gain those insights. I think you have a couple of examples of this, right, Pete?
Yeah, we can walk through this one, and this one is actually really, this is SAP here. Um, the other
Mm-hmm.
customers I won't be able to reveal, but this one I can because of SAP. But SAP is a huge company. We have tons of different revenue streams. We had a lot of acquisitions along the way, right? So the challenge for Reverick team was pretty complete, and they first started using, our RAR product in I want to say 2014 into 2015. I think they were kind of doing some early testing, and I think they were probably early adopting then through 2015 and started using it in a couple company codes in 2016. It just kept growing, and I think by 2017 or 18 they were across the full company, and they've been using it ever since. And so literally the challenges they had in terms of what we talked about, right? The flexibility and agility and being able to now handle the different business models that back then kind of existed but maybe weren't as popular and as big as they are now, have all been things that they've been able to handle with this, with the automated revenue management solution that they're using from SAP. So I think this is a very good case. Our team, you know, um, has walked the talk, so to speak, and they've gone through the different add-ons and the RAR version and do the different updates. And now they're running, the classic version on S4, and things are running very smooth. So anyway, it's really helping them to enable their compliance, giving the right insights, allowing them to have a fast close, close the books on time, and handle the complexity of the business, which is quite large.
Yeah, and I think that this is a great holistic perspective on the digital solutions economy, but just actually all of these models. We all think of the subscription model, right? Where you have, I bought SAP as a subscription. It can be a SaaS model, but it's a subscription model. But I don't know that people realize, or we all realize, that SAP probably has 4 or 5 different revenue models that we talked about. There are consumption models that are available when you use tools like Ariba, for example, where that's more of a consumption style model or usage-based model where you've paid in advance for a certain number of transactions, and once you achieve more transactions than that, it does a reprice and you go to another tiered. So you have these challenges of tiered pricing and automating that tiered pricing approach. You have other pay-as-you-go models, whether it's training and education that we're familiar with, the Concur tools through travel expense. It's amazing to just look at something, even what people would look at as simple but straightforward. Oh, it's SAP, they sell software. Yeah, but they sell software in so many different models. Revenue sharing models, right? There's revenue sharing models when you sell some of the products available as solution extensions, right? So, it shows the power. If SAP can use it, it shows the power of the tool. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then another note, I mean, we have then the little icons in the upper right in terms of certainly, in the early days, 2014, 15, 16, it was about some compliance and how are the standards going to change and how are we going to interpret them, right? A lot of those type questions. But over time, it's really moved into the transformation side, and that's why we put both, because it's all about, am I reporting more quickly? Am I getting the right insights, right? Am I able to handle the merger, right? And we've had companies where we've merged and we've been able to then bring all that revenue data over very quickly, right? Due to the migration tools. And so,
or even divestitures, right? As you
yeah.
look at that, I mean, this is another advantage of this model and this tool, is its ability to integrate disparate systems, but bring you a holistic view of your revenue accounting for mergers and acquisitions. And we know a lot of that is going on in the marketplace today.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, the tools here are cumulative, right? And so the more you use them, the more they get capable, right? They're set
Right.
up. And so that's another thing, if you're new to this, is that we've seen that there's a little bit of setup time, but then over time, your rule set gets bigger and bigger, and so the capabilities then get better and better.
Exactly. All right, so we have another example. Maybe my PC will behave itself.
Yeah, you should have a couple more.
There you go.
Yeah, this one I think you have some insights on, John. I mean, this is a high technology company out of the Valley. They really started with kind of a pure compliance perspective, but later on, I believe they had some additional transformation items. So, basically they had the hardware and software. So that's a little
Hmm.
difference than
Hmm.
SAP, as they had.
Sure, absolutely. And this company went through a tremendous journey themselves, right? Because when they first started their project, they started splitting. They acquired different businesses and moved from ECC to S/4HANA, and moved from that, simple how do I comply to really how do I take on the power of SAP by linking tools such as COPA. They have Brim and many others, and we've been working with them now for, gosh, 5, 6 years as they continue not just the compliance, but really a transformation of their business into a new high-tech business, really. So,
Right, and so that's actually kind of, I think, underscored the change. And then we talked about this a little bit about the digital solutions economy at the beginning, is some of those themes that we saw in the digital solutions economy were around, right, 5, 6 years ago, but I don't think the momentum and the size was there, right, or the growth. So you know, definitely this company started with compliance.
yep,
They had a successful project, but then the world changed, right? And they
yeah,
had strategic changes, they had um, market changes, they had, I think, divestiture. I mean, all kinds of things happened, but through it all, they're still using the solution from SAP. They're making their numbers, they're getting insights, and they're able to,
yep,
make improvements, right? So I think that goes to
absolutely, and they're doing it globally, which is
Yep.
phenomenal. We recently finished some projects for them on global rollout aspects, and they're able to use it all over the world to bring together everything into one place, but be able to also look at it from a tiered perspective, so they can see, by currency, by location, different group reporting versus local reporting. So it really does also provide that tremendous flexibility for them to understand their business. Yeah.
Yep.
So large field service company.
Yeah, so this one is in the U.S. and North America. Actually, it's in more than just U.S. but North America. And this is a company that really wanted. They had an old legacy system. They want to migrate to really. They were saying, look, we want something in the cloud so that we can
Hmm.
rapidly deploy and consume. And so really, they had this kind of comply and transform idea all at once, right? So they were basically
Right.
old system and flip of the switch. They wanted to leapfrog and jump into the modern cloud age and modern ERP system, right? So um, you know basically it turns out they ended up selecting one of our cloud solutions, and they were able to very quickly implement it and get it you know you know rolled out throughout North America. And because of the way that the capabilities are built in around the workflow and the revenue recognition, they really were able to optimize that and get it all out very quickly. And really, their folks are in the field, right? They're not folks that sit in the office and look at spreadsheets or PowerPoints. They're actually at customers,
Yeah.
working on equipment, getting parts, making sure things are right, doing diagnostics. And actually, this was a very good solution for them, holistically, for all of their field service work from SAP, but specifically for revenue recognition. They were able to then really kind of do two things at once: get off an older system,
Right.
comply, but also transform to the newer system, right?
Right, and gave them tremendous amount of insights into all of the various costs associated with a field service visit, and associate those rather than they could seamlessly bundle those together for the customer, but break it out from a revenue recognition and a revenue perspective to really truly understand, what are the drivers of their revenue down to, almost down to a service call. I won't go that far, but certainly they had a lot of great more detail, right? So, absolutely.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, Pete, thank you for that insight. We're going to talk a few minutes about the context of this, and we'll do a few more customer examples here, because I think it's important for people to walk away with a concrete sense of what do we mean in the digital solutions economy, and how does RAR come together in ARM, so Automated Revenue Management, with the other aspects of SAP. So an example is, there's a couple here. We had a large semiconductor company. They make, make graphic chips. They make many different kinds of chips, but they also offer a platform where they do software and license that software. And they wanted a way to really get insights into the profitability and the margins at an individual level. And we were able to do that by combining SAP RAR at the time together with COPA in SAP, and help them provide really insights into that technology, into the costs and the profitability of that individual technology. So you can see how individual companies can embrace different aspects of the digital solutions economy to solve different problems while growing towards this vision. There were two large high-tech companies, one of which we've just recently talked about, but another one we're working with out of New York, where they have multiple and disparate billing systems. Think of this, and Pete, you touched on this, through the acquisitions aspects of these companies, where they've acquired different companies over time, or divested, or built, their own proprietary billing systems. And these proprietary billing systems create multiple disparate bills. Well, all of that needs to flow into one place, so they would use tools such as SAP's convergent invoicing in the BRIM portfolio to bring them all together. But as we know, well, why is that important, and how does RAR relate to that? Well, it's important because RAR, you need to report, and the invoicing drives some of the recognition of that revenue. And we were able to give them some very clear insights using the flexibility of RAR and BRIM together in an integrated portfolio to simplify and automate that revenue accounting. Any thoughts on that, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just illustrates that the way you've laid out kind of this picture here, right, with the 6 pieces, um,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of mix and match, right? I mean, some of these customers are going to use all of the areas, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to use all the areas, right? And it's a good example where a customer is using maybe 1 or 2 of them, right?
Absolutely.
And that's very helpful, I think, in terms of conceptualizing how customers can consume the different offerings and solve problems.
Exactly. I mean, we have another one where we did this with a medical devices company, where we're able to help them. Pete, you mentioned, proprietary customer engagement platforms. Many different companies have their own tools that they've built. That's what differentiates them. Take Amazon as an example. This is not
Yeah.
Amazon, but Amazon has their own proprietary engagement platforms, but they're leveraging SAP sales and distribution to aggregate orders together, coming through, creating those simple, and then driving that into a holistic view of RAR. So you have, here's how you can, marry together, if you will, 3 different aspects. Another large media company that we're dealing with was able to bring together all of these different tools together for automated revenue management. And really, this large media needed to look at things such as MRR, monthly recurring revenue, average revenue per subscriber, churn, and others, while complying, and enable their customers to use other tools. I think the interesting thing is, because you can marry together all of these different aspects of SAP, again, in different ways, you can enable them to have different ways to pay. And of course, the implication here to RAR, or to revenue accounting, is the variability of collectability and that payment capability. And finally, they're using tools like SAP Analytics Cloud to provide this analytics for insight to action, so they can combine disparate systems together and have different views of their business, while managing and focusing and growing that business.
Yeah, I think it's another good example of the intelligent enterprise framework providing, the
Yep.
agility, right, and flexibility, as well as the insights. We don't talk about this a lot, but once you've calculated the revenue recognition especially in RAR, you have a huge amount of data that you can then data mine, right? And get the analytics. And we have some companies that do this where they literally can tell, hey, if I do this marketing program, it results in these new rev rec contracts. Now they get performance obligation and real revenue linked back to the marketing offer, and they're using, building a feedback loop in there to really optimize the marketing side, right? So that's, another
Exactly.
benefit that
You
we
know,
don't talk
that
about.
we've seen exactly, and we've seen others using this in the way that they have nested together many different, the media companies are a great example. What if I create different packaged offers, and how do those packaged offers affect my ability to recognize that revenue over time, and which ones can I recognize up front? And by having different offers in the marketplace and creating these payment options, what's the direct impact to my cash flow? Right? So we'll be talking in the future a little bit more with one of your colleagues, Haresh Chaya, about the impacts
Yep.
of the digital solutions economy
Treasury.
on treasury and cash flow and working capital in particular, right? Because we have DIO, DSO combining together for all of those and days payable outstanding, all of that together to create, impacts on working capital. And what you can see here is I really think that SAP is in a unique position to address this in a way that nobody else can. And of course, our heritage from this side allows us, because of our deep expertise in these different areas that drive revenue accounting, to really partner with SAP and drive innovative solutions in the marketplace. And we're actually seeing a lot of different um, engagement from small companies to large companies who are interested in, maybe the small company wants to embrace this as a vision with pieces being external and picking up others, whereas the big companies are looking and saying, well, help me with this problem or this problem. So we're very excited to be working with you, Pete, and of course with everybody else on this area.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
with that, I'm going to wrap up. I want to say thank you to you again, Pete. As always, it's a pleasure being on here with you and adding insights. Um, and we're excited about this digital solutions economy. We believe it is the future, but it requires a flexible revenue management platform like you get from SAP. And I don't want to call it a solution. I don't want to call it software. It really is a revenue management platform that allows you to do so much more than just report revenue. It provides tremendous insights, flexibility, and tools for you to manage and to do exactly what we talked about with the comply, optimize, and transformation of your business. And you can see through Pete's examples and my examples, companies are addressing all of this in different ways. There's not just one way, and the beauty of this approach is to give all of you a way to think about this differently. I encourage you to reach out to us, check out additional materials we have, ask questions, and probe, because believe me, the digital solutions economy is happening, and it's happening to companies in ways we never anticipated. Whether it's a manufacturing company that instead of charging for a device, charges by the volume of material that is monitored or poured through that device, or energy companies that are charging rather than by the management of individual wellheads or individual wells by volume of activity. And you saw Pete's example about service, where you can charge by service visits. These new models will affect every business. And if it doesn't, it will affect you in a negative way. So we encourage you to reach out, explore more, and talk with us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Keep cool. I know there's a huge heat wave going on throughout the US and our friends in India and all over the world. So please keep cool, keep safe. Thank you for joining us. And on behalf of Bramasol, who is the leaders in business transformation, finance compliance, we're excited to see you in our next webinar that will be coming towards the end of July 29th. We're going to start exploring more about the various tools and approaches that you can take for order management using many of the different tools SAP provides, and talking a little bit about ways you can use tools such as iPaaS technology to interface to external tools. So with that, Pete, again, thank you very much.
Thanks,
And,
John. Thanks, everyone.
and,
Yep.
and we'll call it a day. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.